Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. I haven't made a top 10 video in ages, so today, top 10 best pilots watches under $500 US. Now, I have made this shocking confession on the channel before. I am not a pilot. I do not own a plane, and even if I did, I wouldn't know how to fly it, and yet I own several pilots watches, and I'm guessing that is the same for about 99.99% of the people who will be watching this video. Of course, there are the other 0.01%, such as the guys and girls of the University of Oklahoma Aviation School, one of whom kindly sent me this t-shirt. For them, these watches are tools of the trade, and vital tools of the trade at that. For most of the rest of us mere mortals who do not have that pleasure, they are primarily an aesthetic choice. We buy pilots watches because we use some of the features, but we like the looks and we like the stories behind them. And when I was thinking about watches to include on this list, it's amazing the breadth of different pilots watches that are available. From the simple Type A and Type B Fliegers from the Second World War era to the far more complicated, modern, Thule pilots chronographs of today. And I've tried to include a fair variety of all of those different designs from the different eras. On today's list, there's Chinese watches, Japanese watches, Swiss watches and German watches, and a fair spread of prices as well, from $99 or thereabouts to just over $500. I will of course leave links to all 10 watches in the description of the video in the order that I show them. Use them as your starting point, but as always, do your own research, do your own digging, find the best deals for you. And as always, I try not to show stuff, I try not to recommend watches that I haven't got hands-on reviewing experience with, and I reckon I have reviewed 8 out of the 10. Enough waffle, Jody, let's get on with it, and let's start with the watch on my wrist, the watch that I've been wearing for the last week or so. It's the Citizen EcoDrive Blue Angels. So the Blue Angels are currently $399 on the bracelet from Joma Shop. I got the leather strap version. It's a little bit cheaper. If I had my time again, I would opt for the bracelet. I think it's always easier to pick up a leather strap aftermarket than to try and find the bracelet again. First thing you notice with this is there is a lot going on. Get used to it. All of these modern pilots watches are chronographs, plus they have a slide rule bezel around the outer edge so that the aforementioned 0.01% can calculate flight times, fuel loads, etc, etc. Plus this particular watch is an EcoDrive. It has a world time function. It's got a day of the week indicator on the 6 o'clock subdial, a 24-hour indicator at 9, and a 60-minute chronograph up there at 12, as well as a date. So lots and lots going on. Very impressed with this one. It's in the queue for review. It's been in the queue for a while, to be honest, but it's high time I remedied that. This one is sapphire crystal. It's full size at 43mm, but relatively slim at about 12, so still nice and wearable. 200 meters of water resistance, perpetual calendar, and EcoDrive means you only have to set this watch once. And if you live somewhere with an atomic clock, you need never set it at all. It will do that itself once a day. It really is the definition of set and forget, this one. The styling isn't going to be to everyone's taste. It is perhaps going to be too busy for some, but a real all-rounder, this one. Very, very impressive for the money. So from a modern pilot's watch, let's take it all the way back to the 30s and 40s and have a look at a Flieger. I reckon if you're on a budget but you're in the market for an authentic German Flieger, you would be mad not to look at the Laco Aachen and Augsberg. So these are all available from Laco direct. The Aachen is the Type B dial in either 39 or 42. The Augsberg is the Type A dial, also in either 39 or 42. Same price regardless, €340, less your 20% if you live outside of the Eurozone, plus delivery. You should be looking at around $360, $370 USD for one of these if you're in the States. And for that you get an authentic German Flieger, like I said. Laco were one of the 5 companies making these back during the Second World War era. Now, some people, I admit, might be a little bit uncomfortable with that. I've been able to separate the design from its historical context, but I know some people just don't like this old style of Flieger for that reason. Plenty of other pilots watches on this list for you lot. But if you're into the look, these are great for the money. Admittedly, they only have a fairly basic Miyota 8000 series movement in them, and they're very, very simple watches. That's the idea. They were simple in the 1930s and 40s, and they're simple today. No fancy case finishing. It's all very, very plain, but made in Germany from a big, well-known brand, still under $400. That can't be bad. At number 3, let's have a look at a watch that fits chronologically somewhere between numbers 1 and numbers 2. One of my favourites, it's been in my collection for years and years, it's the Seagull 1963. So these little Seagull 1963s are available from a variety of different outlets. I'd be going straight to AliExpress, straight to the source, because they have the best prices, under $150. Now you can get them in a 38mm, that's the one I have, or there is a new 40mm if 38 is just a bit too small for you. You need to be careful though to decide whether you want the acrylic crystal, which is more authentic but will scratch more easily, or a more modern sapphire crystal, not quite as authentic but no scratches. I've had one of each. I would be opting for the sapphire if I was you. And it is such a gorgeous looking little watch. Champagne dial, applied indexes, red accents and blue hands. How on earth does that lot work in combination? I have no idea, but it just does. And what a movement. There's a nice story behind this one. The Chinese were looking for a domestically produced chronograph for their Air Force back in the 1960s, and they bought an already 20 years old and therefore out of date Venus 175 caliber chronograph from the Swiss, and they've been making it ever since, so you're getting a real nugget of horological history with this one. A manual wind column wheel chronograph for under $150. There is nothing else like this on the market. There is actually nothing else like this on the market. It's such a sweet little watch. Like I said, I've had two of the 38s and I really enjoy that size. I might have to pick myself up a 40 just to see how that one looks and feels. One of the most, if not the most iconic Chinese watches of all time, this one. At number 4, it is the only Swiss watch on today's list. It is also potentially the most expensive watch, but you do have plenty of options. It's the Hamilton Khaki Pilot. Now, I highly rate this watch. It made it into my top 5 watches of 2020 review video at the end of last year. So $399 from Joma Shop for the quartz. You are looking at $599 starting price for the auto on a leather strap, $649 if you want a bracelet. There's a couple of different versions. I'd be opting for this one with the day of the week at the 12 o'clock. That has the interstellar connection as well. Plenty of other colorways if you so choose, because it's a Hamilton and they just love to out niche themselves by offering 200 different versions of the same watch, don't they? If you are prepared to go for the quartz, or you are prepared to go for the extra, I know it's a little bit over budget today, but you are well rewarded. It is a dynamite watch, this one, I think. Hamilton's so hard to beat in terms of value at this price point, especially if you opt to go grey market from a seller like Joma Shop. I described this one as a dressy Flieger, a kind of modernised Flieger. They've taken that Type B design and they have updated it in almost every single way. Extra facets to the dial, skeletonized hands, applied indexes, sapphire crystal, very wearable size at 42, and a decent bracelet, which you don't always get from Hamilton with some of their lesser priced watches. It also has that killer Powermatic 80 automatic ETA movement with an 80-hour power reserve. Alright, it's not quite the 6 months you get from the Citizen EcoDrive, but it's pretty good for an auto. The most expensive watch on the list today, but sometimes you do indeed get what you pay for. This one, arguably the best watch on the list. Next up, it's a watch from a brand that specialises in pilot's watches, Av8. There's a bit of a clue in the name. It's the Lafayette. Now, Av8 are a brand that specialise in pilot's watches. However, stylistically, not all of them have been my cup of tea. This Flyboy Lafayette, on the other hand, I think is a bit of a honey. They seem to have one version on sale at the moment, less than $200 US. That is a bit of a deal in my opinion. Plenty of other retailers sell them. I'll leave a couple of links and a discount code in the description of the video as well. This one taking some of its styling cues back to the First World War, but with a modern sizing at 42mm in diameter and with a Seiko Mecha Quartz movement, the first of the Seiko Mecha Quartz chronographs on today's list. Now, that is a hybrid quartz and mechanical. It's a quartz based movement powered by a battery, so you get 2 to 3 years out of it. However, they stick a mechanical chronograph movement on top, powering the chronograph mechanism. So when I press the chronograph button, you get 5 ticks per second, and it doesn't look like a quartz in the way that the Citizen Blue Angels most definitely did. This is a very nicely finished watch for less than $200, and it's on a Jubilee, which is a bit of a rarity generally speaking, and a complete unicorn when it comes to pilot's watches. The only real neg of this one that I can see is a mineral crystal rather than a sapphire crystal covering the dial, and there is quite a lot of noticeable purple anti-reflective. Perhaps you spotted that earlier on. Shop around though, if you can find one of these for less than $200, definitely an interesting option. At number 6, I couldn't show you the Citizen Blue Angels without showing you the equivalent Seiko. It is of course the infamous Seiko Flightmaster. or flighty to its mates. $250 seems to be the going rate for these at the moment. On JomaShop and on eBay, I will leave links to both. I guess this is the Seiko equivalent of the Citizen Blue Angels, and there are a number of advantages in going this way, not least of which is the price saving coming in at $250. Very wearable design, this one, 42mm in diameter, super compact, 44 lug to lug, and I think it looks great. I love the colour tones, vast majority in black, the odd yellow highlight here and there, and that tiny little spot of red on the slide rule bezel. It's a bi-directional friction slide rule bezel with aluminium insert, screw down crown, screw down pushers, 200 meters of water resistance as well. You do only get a piece of double domed hard lex, so it's only mineral crystal. It is going to scratch if you treat the watch roughly. And the bracelet is an odd fish to say the least. It flares out from the case and then back in at the bracelet. It just doesn't look like it belongs on the watch at all. You don't get a perpetual calendar and an EcoDrive, but it is an interesting in-house Seiko chronograph movement. Gives the illusion of a mechanical with 5 ticks per second, and it features an alarm. It's the only watch on today's list to have one of those. It's not all that powerful, it won't wake you up from a deep slumber, but it's a useful reminder nonetheless. So again, very much a robust all-rounder this one, and well priced with a great brand name on the dial. Next up, it's another German Flieger. Now, I hinted at this one earlier on. If you're okay with buying from a company that doesn't have the history of Laco, I highly recommend you have a look at Dekla. So Dekla is a much newer and much smaller German brand than Laco, so you don't get the history, you don't get the heritage. What you do get for your roughly $500 is pretty much any customization options that you want. A choice of 40, 42 and 44. Type A, Type B. You get a chance to have a white painted indices, or you can go for a super old radium faux retro look. You can have a hand brush or a bead blasted case, the same for the bezel. You want a diamond crown, no problem. You want an onion crown, no problem. A whole bunch of dial options, a whole bunch of hand options, and a whole bunch of movement options. You can get it engraved if you so choose, and you can have a choice of colour straps. Now these are all custom made for you, and therefore there's a 4 to 5 week delivery time wait on them. And the quality you're getting for $500 I think is excellent. And from my experience with Fliegers, size really does matter, so it's great that you have the options of 40, 42 and 44 with these Deklas. At number 8, it is another Citizen EcoDrive. Citizen as a brand really overrepresented in this sector of budget pilots watches. To be honest, it's the Nighthawk. No, it's not, Jody. It is the Navihawk. My apologies. This is one of these rare instances when the Aussies get the best deal in town. 249 AUD is the equivalent of about 200 USD at the moment, so about half the price of the other Citizen EcoDrive Blue Angels watch that I showed you at the beginning of the video. This one doesn't have quite the same specifications. It is larger, but for half the money you don't get Sapphire, you get Mineral, and you don't get the Perpetual calendar. You do, however, get an EcoDrive. You get a second time zone capable in there, and you get the internal rotating slide rule bezel just like the first watch, and 200 meters of water resistance. I do not review enough Citizen watches on the channel. I've only looked at half a dozen or so. That is something I am determined to rectify towards the second half of this year, and this one is definitely on the list. It looks fantastic, and if you buy it from the right vendor, 5-year warranty, not to be sniffed at. At number 9, it's another micro brand watch. We've had a look at some retro Fliegers, we've had a look at some modern chronos. I reckon the TWCO Air Controller fits somewhere in the middle. So the technical watch company Air Controller is another watch that is waiting patiently in the queue for review. These start at around $335 up to $450 for the full Buna package with the bracelet and the 2 different colours of leather strap. This thing is built like an absolute tank. It's another pilot's watch that's the 4th on the list today that has 200 meters of water resistance. What's with that? Is it pilots that have no faith in their own abilities or no faith in their machinery? I'm not sure. I really like the look of this one. It is clean, it is crisp, it is modern, and it is ultra legible. Stark white hands and indexes against that black dial with just a little bit of colour here and there for good measure. Very nicely made, this one. A neat little touch there with that green crown seal. You don't see that often at $300. And a double screw bracelet. Very impressive. Seiko Mecha Quartz movement, sapphire crystal, and a decent bit of lume on the dial and the hands. You can expect to see a review of this one coming over the next couple of months. And finally, at number 10, what would a top 10 list on this channel be without the inclusion of a Casio? If you don't fancy the options from Seiko or Citizen, check out this Edifice. And being a Casio, it is value packed. Indeed, it is the cheapest watch on the list today. RRP is around 200, however they are all over eBay for less than 100 US dollars. Very, very similar look and feel, I'd imagine, to both of the Citizens. Internal rotating slide rule bezel operated by a crown down there at 7, standard chrono pushers at 2 and 4, and the regular crown at 3. Now you only get 100 meters of water resistance, so don't crash your plane in any deep water, and you only get mineral crystal on the dial. And being a Casio, I wouldn't necessarily expect too much from the bracelet either at this price point, but if you want the look of the others on a super tight budget, Casio has you covered as always. So there you have it, top 10 pilots watches under $500, or perhaps a little bit over 500 if you do opt for one of those automatic Hamiltons. But if you do, you have bought well, my friend, I promise you. That is an absolute stunner. Lots of cracking watches on the list today. I'm really quite into this Citizen Blue Angels. I must say, I've had the Flightmaster in the past. That Dekla Flieger offers outstanding value, or you have the Laco there if you want genuine authenticity. Something for everyone. If your favourite pilot watch wasn't on the list, tell me about it, leave me a comment. Perhaps I will make a second top 10 in the future. Thanks for watching. I will see you all in a future video.